to a community of online park lovers. This tree stands as a real-world monument to your enduring love for the land. May it serve as a tangible connection to all of your favorite parks and protected areas wherever in the world they may be. Much love, Cameron. That is the message I left for you on a tree I bought for you. That tree is a several hundred-year-old beech tree in the rugged, remote Fagaras Mountains of Romania. Now, you may be asking yourself why I bought such a tree, which is fair, and you may be asking yourself how I got such a message attached to it, which is also fair. So here's how it all went down. A few months ago, I came across this article about a place in Romania in the Fagaras Mountains called the Forest of Immortal Stories. Like, totally badass name, right? This forest preserves 2,544 beech trees, some of which could be up to 500 years old. The number 2,544, again, the number of trees that were preserved, was chosen because it is the elevation in meters of the highest peak in Romania, Moldoveanu. And as part of the conservation efforts in this Forest of Immortal Stories, you can adopt one of these trees, an ancient Romanian beech tree, which is exactly what I did. I adopted a tree number 331 after the date, March 31st, on which I uploaded my very first video here on National Park Diaries. Now, the super cool thing about this tree adoption, and what I think makes this one of the more unique conservation efforts that I've ever seen, is that, like, in addition to the tree and the adopting and the money being put back into the conservation of the forest and the local community, I also got to attach a story to my tree. The story I attached to it is what you heard at the beginning of the video. Each tree in the Forest of Immortal Stories has a QR code attached to it. And if you were to visit my tree, I'll put the coordinates on the screen here for anyone who is in the wilds of Romania and wants to go visit it, and definitely let me know if you end up doing that. But yeah, you can scan this QR code and you would hear my story, the same one I shared with you earlier. That story makes this tree that I adopted your tree also. I framed my story, the story that I left on this tree to be preserved forever, specifically as a love letter to this community. This is awesome. I love this approach to conservation because I'm a storyteller. Telling stories about protected places is the entire point of this channel. And now I can have my story, our story, the story of this community, permanently enshrined in a forest that is dedicated to telling stories. You know, I was actually talking with the group behind this project, a shout out to Yulia, and I asked, like, what do you want people to know about the Forest of Immortal Stories? What do you want the big takeaway to be? And Yulia talked about the power of interconnectedness, not just with these trees and with nature, but with each other. The stories these ancient trees now hold through the efforts of this entire conservation project are connecting people all over the world. Like, you can just go on the website, pick a tree at random, and hear a story from a person you don't even know. You can hear a heartfelt, personal message, a story that means something to somebody somewhere. Or you can travel in person to the forest and scan that QR code and hear the message that way. Or you can adopt your own tree and add your own story to this forest, and it will be preserved for you and for others forever in the ancient beech forests of Romania. I felt that at a very deep level because it's kind of the same philosophy behind National Park Diaries in a way. every story I tell on this channel is meant not just to inform and educate you, but to connect you with the places I talk about, with me, and with each other. Those connections together can weave a thread from protected place to protected place throughout the world, and through the power of storytelling, we can weave those connections into something much greater than ourselves. I truly believe in the power of connection. My audience, you all, come from all over the world, and we don't know each other, and yet we unite here on YouTube to connect over the power of protected places. I think that's really beautiful, and that's why I was so drawn to the Forest of Immortal Stories, why I wanted to let you know about it, and why I adopted Beech number 331 and dedicated its story to you. In a place that is dedicated to immortalizing stories of human connection, I want there to be a story about our connection, about our community. I want there to be a real-world, tangible piece of National Park Diaries, protected forever, in a forest where stories are immortalized. And I say all of this because the Forest of Immortal Stories is actually only one small piece of a much larger story itself, which is actually why this video is only part one of a two-part story on the efforts to create a Romanian national park in an area that has been called the Yellowstone of Europe. I wanted to make this shorter video just really quickly to, one, give the Forest of Immortal Stories its due. It's a very special project. There's a permanent piece of National Park Diaries now protected within it. Our story is now the story of this national park. And I also wanted to just spotlight the Forest of Immortal Stories here on the channel with its own video. Like I said, it's a very special project, and I wanted it to be able to stand on itself and kind of shine with its own video before we connected it into the larger story of conservation in the Carpathians. So that's why this one was split out, but do be on the lookout for the next video, like I said, about the Yellowstone of Europe. There's a link in the description where you can adopt your own tree in the Forest of Immortal Stories, where you can add your story to this forest and have it protected forever. All of the proceeds from those adoptions go to stay in the forest, and they stay in the community, and they help to conserve that landscape for the future. Thank you so much for watching, and thanks for being a part of this community. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.